Welcome back to Everyday Race. Today I'm going to do a teardown of this 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine that came out of a 99 Ford Ranger, or so I was told by the seller, and picked it up for $50. And I didn't even have to drive to Arkansas. It seems like all the good deals in Arkansas. That's where I picked up that 2.3 turbo short block that I just took apart a few days ago. So I went, first thing I had to check, make sure it was a 2.5 liter block, and that's where it says right there, 25L. I'm not sure if there's a point in there. The second thing I do when I pick up used engine is I try to spin the crankshaft, make sure it's not locked up. Because if it's locked up, it's most likely been underwater. So this engine spins fairly easy. It does feel like it's got some compression. So it might be just a blown head gasket. So the plan for this engine, either do a factory rebuild, maybe build it for a turbo, a supercharger, and if everything's junk, it's going to go to a scrapyard. So the plan is simple. First thing I'm going to do is take out the intake manifold, just the lower one. The engine came with some parts. The upper plenum was already taken off, and then there's like a throttle body, an AGR valve, and things of that nature. Then I'm going to remove the ignition coil / alternator bracket, and then remove the exhaust manifold, and then we'll get to the cylinder head. So let's get started. Alright, so the intake manifold is bolted down by a bunch of 13mm bolts. Also got to take out the dipstick tube. There we go. Intake manifold. Ooh, looks like the gasket was bad. You can see it was like this. Oh, that could have been the whole problem. Alright, next let's move to the bracket. Let's get it out of the way. Alright, it was hooked up to the water pump outlet to seal. This engine's real basic, easy to work on. Alright, next let's take the exhaust manifold bolts. I already sprayed them with PB Blaster, so we'll see. There's the exhaust manifold with the oxygen sensor and the bolts that I have to pull out. So far, pretty simple. So let's get the engine bracket out of there. Alright. Now let's see, the valve cover bolts were already missing. Now let's take a look at the camshaft. It's in pretty good shape. I don't see nothing wrong. These are 6-point head bolts. I don't remember off the top of my head if those are stretched to yield or if they're usable, but either way I've got the studs. So let's go ahead and pull these out and remove the cylinder head. Let's see, unless we gotta pull something from the front. Alright, let's get the front accessories out of there. Alright, so let's get the balancer off. It's a 22 millimeter. I'll cut it out. Should be no problem. I don't want to damage it, so I'm going to spray it with Deep Creek. And let's pull the water pump. 3 10 millimeter bolts. 1, 2, 3. Now hopefully nothing's going to come out of there. Let's see what it looks like. Ooh, no rust. That's amazing. That's pretty amazing. So that's a pump that is reusable. Next, let's pull the thermostat housing. I think they're 8 millimeter bolts. You got 2 8s. It came out in one piece. Let's see. It's pretty good shape. It's 192 degrees. So that's what it's supposed to have in it. Alright, so next, what do you want to do? Let's get the tensioner out of there. And we have to remove the timing cover. Looks to be 8 millimeter. go. Balancer looks to be in okay shape. It's got some rust, but the rubber here doesn't look broken, so I'm gonna reuse that. And now we can get the timing cover off. After I get the tensioner out of there. Goes the spring. And that's the timing belt tensioner. Alright. So we're gonna need 10mm. Piece of 11. That's just a nut. So we're gonna get this one. My 10mm is not long enough. There it goes. Technically, we don't have to remove it. The reason I wanted it out because the head wouldn't come off. It would break this cover, and I'd rather not break anything. Take everything out. Take my time with it. Now let's get the oil pump pulley off. Alright, 17mm for the oil pump pulley. You grab a rag. I like to use a rag to hold it. There we go. There she goes. Alright, so carefully. Get this gear out. There we go. Alright, so far so good. I'm not going to remove the oil pump just yet. So I'm going to put the pulley back on there. Alright, so next I'm going to remove valve cover gasket. I'm going to remove the head bolts. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 10 head bolts. I'm not even going to bother with the spark plugs. So let's get it done. These seem to be 13 millimeters. So let's see if a small gun can get them undone. I'm using a small M18 Milwaukee gun. Nope. Forget about the extension. Gotta use the big boy. So I like to remove the head bolts out and move my weight to the inside. So let's see if anything breaks. And now we can use a small gun. Okay, that one's not great. Ooh, that one smells bad. It smells like a barbecue. Not a good barbecue, but like a bad barbecue. Alright, so pretty much ready to remove the cylinder head. It's probably going to fight us. So I'm going to need to use my favorite tool. Just tap it. There we go. It broke loose. This thing's kind of heavy. Alright. Let me show you bad news. See the piston? it's missing a piece. Let's see. That one's okay. That one's okay. That one seems okay. This one's definitely busted. So let me pull the cylinder head in the light, and we'll see if number 4 cylinder on the cylinder head got damaged or not. Alright, so this is the cylinder head. Let's see if the head gasket was blown. There's some rust, but I don't see nothing blown. So let's see. Cylinder number 4, that's the one that got damaged. It had a broken piston, but I'm not really seeing any damage on the in the combustion chamber. They all look the same. Plugs didn't get damaged. Number 1 and number 2 got some oil, some carbon. So that's not bad, not bad. Let me lower all the valves, and then we'll see if it leaks any, if the valves are actually sealing or not. So what I like to do is I like to spray brake cleaner in the intake and then the exhaust ports, and if it comes out of here, that means that the valve is leaking. If it doesn't, that means it's sealing just fine. So let's get that done. Alright, so this is the cylinder number 1. The exhaust valve's closed, 2 closed, 3 open, and 4 closed. So let's test 1, 2, and 4. So let's look at before. Let me get some light in there. This is before. This is, should be able to tell. So let's go ahead and spray brake cleaner. And 2, and then 4. Alright, so it looks like number 2. See how it's getting wet on the outside. I'm gonna let it sit for 5 minutes, then we'll come back. Should be able to see clearly which valve is leaking, and if I'm willing to bet some money, pretty sure number 2 exhaust is gonna be a problematic one. Alright, so number 1 is undetermined. It's too oily, so we'll get back to that one. Number 2, as you can see, there is a ring on the valve, so 2 is definitely leaking. And number 4, gonna have to clean that one too. It looks like a tiny small amount of brake cleaner came out, but it's very small. So next I'm going to test number 3. I gotta turn the camshaft and close the valve, and let's get it done. Alright, so I've got the number 3 cylinder cam lobe to the side, so the valve is closed. So let's take the brake cleaner and spray it in there. And just like that, you can already see. Boom. Number 3 is leaking too. Just as bad as that's the worst one. Boom. There it is. I need a valve job on that one. Alright then. Let's move to the intake valves. So let me flip the cylinder head over and do the same thing. Alright, so I got cylinder head flipped up, facing intake ports facing up. So I got the number 1 cylinder would be all the way on the left now. That's 2, 3, and 4. I've got number 1 cylinder intake valve open and the rest are closed. So let's take the brake cleaner and let's see if the intake valves are. I can already see number 2 is leaking. I mean number 3. Let's try number 2. Alright, so number 3 is definitely getting wet. So there's definitely leakage there. So let me let this cylinder head sit for like 5 minutes and then we'll recheck it. Alright, so let's flip it over and see what we got. Alright, number 3. Let's see, number 4 is wet. So that's leaking. Number 3. Number 3 is wet. Number 2 is a wet. What do you guys think? You think number 1's gonna be wet next? Post it in the comment section. Let me move the camshaft and get it to close. Alright, so now number 1 is closed. Let's spray brake cleaner in there, and if I had to guess, I think it's gonna need a valve job too. Ooh, that one's bad. Look at that. That truck must have ran like crap. Like poop. Yeah. That was no good. So yeah. It's gonna need a valve job. Alright. Let's go back to the engine. Now you can see part of the piston ring. That's what that is. Was beat into the piston. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm kind of concerned about this head bolt that's full of rust. Oh, I see some coolant in there. So I'm not sure if the block cracked or what happened, how water got in there. So let's spin the engine over and see what the cylinder looks like. But before that, let's check out number 2. Number 2 cylinder walls are looking okay. See, you can see a crosshatch on there. Let's look at. Okay, so this number 2, and they look fine. Let's see if it damaged the cylinder wall, so let's put it all the way to the bottom. You see anything? I don't see anything. That's weird. I figure that kind of damage would have destroyed the cylinder. But it's not that bad. There's even crosshatch in there. You can really see, not a lot. Let's look at number 1. I see some wear from a piston. Let me clean that up. No, that one's definitely got some piston material. So that one's got number 1's got quite a bit of wear. Surprisingly, number 4 broke, but it doesn't have as much wear. That is weird. Yeah, that's pretty strange. Alright, so I better get a drain pan and then flip the engine over, because I see coolant in there. Let me see if I can drain it from the block. There we go. It's got to be drains here. There's one here. Alright, so I'm going to try to drain as much coolant as possible, and I haven't checked if it's got any oil in it, so I'm going to go ahead and crack the oil pan open as well. So I just don't want to make a huge mess. So far it's been pretty clean, so let me go ahead and do that. That's nothing interesting. Alright, so far it's not looking good. Piston damaged, the cylinder head, all the valves are leaking. So let's not stop there. Let's go and take the oil pan off and see what we got there. That wasn't bad. Alright, so the oil pan's got a bunch of 8mm bolts. It's hammer time. we go. Doesn't look too bad. No metal. Alright, so next let's remove the oil pump. Ooh, look what I found. Now that's an oil ring. That was on a number 2. Stuck in there. So we're gonna have some damage in there. But let's get the pickup tube first. And then we're going to start removing all the pistons. Pickup tube is 15. Okay, we got 10 millimeters holding it to the block. Come on. Come on there. All right. Pickup tube is clean. So we'll put the bolts back in there. Alright, next we're gonna start from cylinder number 1, remove the connecting rod and push the piston out. Connecting rod nuts are 14 millimeter. It's not strong enough. Right. This one's strong enough. Well, it came out right on my foot. Didn't want to hit the ground. Oh yeah. Just like I said, the number 1 cylinder. Oh, the rings. Oh, that one's busted too. Yeah, look at that. Looks like it got overheated. And then that broke the ring land. It's all busted up. But let's look at the bearings. Let's look at the bearings. Look at the bearings. The bearings are still, it looks like it had some crap in the oil, but not really that bad. Yeah, the bearing looks usable. So we're gonna save the damaged parts. Anybody wants to guess what the number 2, 3, and 4 cylinder is gonna look like? I think number 2 and number 3 is gonna be just fine. And we already know the top of the number 4 piston is damaged, so that's number 1. I better hold it from the bottom because that one flew out so quick. Alright. We gotta spin the crankshaft. Let's get number 4 out. Alright, make sure it doesn't fall on my foot. I'm gonna put my hand over there. Okay. Well, this one didn't fall out so quick. This one doesn't want to come out, so I'm just gonna dab it in. Alright, the bearing's okay. The piston, obviously, not okay. Alright, next let's do number 2. Okay, the bearing is okay. Let me put the nuts on and then we'll see what the piston looks like. Alright. Piston rings are moving just fine. The bottom one isn't really moving very good. The oil ring is stuck, so that's why it would cause it to burn oil. Yeah, that's not good. All right, let's get number 3 out of the way. Bearings are okay. They're used, but they're okay. Ta-da! The bearings are about the same condition. Alright, so the piston, we got both compression rings are moving just fine. Oil ring stuck, so it was a oil burner for sure. That's why all this black stuff in here. So that's number 3. Alright, might as well remove the crankshaft. The tricky part about the crankshaft is that the front cover's got to come out, and then the last time I tried to pull one out, it was kind of a pain because it's stuck on the gear, and there's a seal in there and the dowel pins, so you have to pull it and then it'll come out, but the gear is blocking it. So let me spray some PB Blaster on it, or actually let me move the engine so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Alright, so in order to remove the crankshaft, you have to remove all the mains. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. But, well, 5 of them, yeah. But for it to come out, this cover has to come out. And it's got stupid dowel pins. Last time I had to get a small puller to get this pulley out of there in order to pull the cover off and lift the crankshaft. So let's go ahead and spray it with penetrating oil. And gonna let it sit for a while. Alright, so I took a break. I finished up with everything, and there's only one thing left, and that's remove the main caps and pull the crankshaft and inspect the main bearings. And as I thought, it was going to be kind of difficult, and the reason for that is because of this timing cover. This is like the dumbest idea Ford ever did on these 2.3, 2.5 engines. Even the turbo one right over there, it's got the same timing cover, except it does not have this crank position sensor like a 95 to 2001 trucks. 94 and 93 Rangers, they have a different crank position sensor. It's actually worse, but that's why I stay away from those years. But anyways, why can't we just lift the crankshaft? Well, the biggest problem is this pulley, this timing belt crank pulley. 95% of the time it's pretty much on there, and there is no way to get under it. Now I went and got the smallest puller, and guess what? It just doesn't have enough room to get under there, so that's useless. So next option is to already remove the 4 bolts that hold this cover to the engine. So now we can remove the main caps with the 22mm socket, and the whole thing should come out, right? Wrong. This cover's got 2 dowel pins. If it wasn't for these dowel pins, there's one right over there, and there's one right down here. So basically, it's stuck on the dowel pins, and the crank can't move forward to clear the dowel pins. So, dowel pins, they have to come out. On the last engine, I just cut them off. It was I needed the cover. It was a junk engine, so I was just being careful not to damage the cover. Cut them off. The whole thing came out. This one, I'm going to reuse this engine block. So I'm trying to be more careful. So what I did is, one side I was able to get needle nose pliers in there and slowly work the dowel pin out of the block and into the cover. Like you can see, the dowel pin is in the cover, so it no longer holds. So this side moves. This one, unfortunately, doesn't have enough room to do anything. So as you can see, not enough room. Maybe if I had skinnier needle nose pliers, I could get it done. But I think with one of them off, I'm going to try to lift the crankshaft up and just move the cover. And once the crankshaft is off and clears the block, move it forward, and that will clear the dowel pin on this side. Then I'll be able to slide the cover back on the crankshaft, and that will give me enough room to use the puller to get the stupid timing gear off. So let's give it a go. Alright, so let's take main caps. Probably going to need to use the hammer. Make sure all the bolts clear. I want to keep the bolts and everything together. So I'm going to need my favorite tool. Just work this thing off. This is one. This one's got the rear main seal, so this one's usually a pain. we go. There's the rear main seal. Let's put it right here and put the bolt back in there. Now we can take the rear main seal. It's going in the dumpster. Now I'm gonna have to put the camera on the stand because I'm gonna need 2 hands, maybe even 3 hands. I have to lift it up and then I have to move it forward and try not to break the cover. So let me get that mounted. All right, there goes nothing. Still fighting me. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. See? Alright, so first let's look at all the main bearings. This bearing probably could have gone another 100,000 miles. Same thing with this one. Same with that one. Good shape. Could you reuse it? Sure. Should you want to do it? Not really. So next let's move to the crankshaft. It's a Ford unit. As you can see, it's marked right there. And guess what? It looks pretty darn good. It can be polished out, but it really doesn't need it. It's in good reusable shape. Alright, so the whole teardown is complete, just about. Gotta remove that stupid cover. Anyways, why did this engine fail? Obviously, it had enough oil. All the bearings were fine. But number 4 cylinder did this. And number 1 cylinder did that. So, in my opinion, number 4 cylinder started the whole thing. Remember when I pulled the lower intake in this gasket? It looks like it's been on there, and there was a bunch of vacuum leak on a number 4 cylinder, and that's where this piston came out. So what happened is number 4 cylinder wasn't getting enough fuel. It was running lean. It was a pre-ignition, destroyed the piston. Once this piston started looking like this, then a whole bunch of crankcase pressure started going in the bottom of the engine. So the bottom of the engine was getting pressurized, and the PCV valve started dumping it back in the intake. So you got a bunch of oily mixture going in the intake manifold, and then it's going back in the cylinders. And if you add oil in the combustion, there's going to be some bad things happening. There's going to be pre-ignition, running lean, all kinds of stuff. So I think next, number 4 cylinder broke, and I think that's when the guy stopped driving it. And then on top of that, pretty much all the valves on the cylinder head were leaking. Not a whole lot, just slightly. And the common problem on these is the valves get recessed. Means that the valve move that way, and that's the reason either the valves wear out or the seats. The seats is where the valve stays when it's closed. They get worn out, so there's less metal around it. So looking at this one, it doesn't look that bad. I think the intake valves actually look worse than the exhaust valves. As you can see, all the exhaust valves, you can see the ridge, and the top of the valve is above where the seat is at. Like the intake, see how close it is to where the seat is at? So that was partially another problem that caused it. So you got the vacuum leak, you got the leaky valves, you got the oxygen sensor is reading all kinds of garbage, and it can't send good information to the computer. Computer doesn't send correct amount of fuel. The engine pre-ignites, and it probably happen over weeks, if not months, until it starts smoking real bad. That's when piston number 1 and then piston number 4 collapsed. So that's when the guy stopped driving it. But the good thing is that there's a lot of good parts. The crankshaft, the rods are still good. 2 of the pistons, the cylinder head is reusable. I'm going to take it to a machine shop. The camshaft is in great condition. The block is usable. There are no cracks in it. So yeah. Well, that's going to be it for today. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll make a comment or hit a like button. But in the future, I think next couple of days, whenever I get some time, since I have the turbo engine, I have the 2.3 engine, and then now I have the 2.5 engine. Once I remove that, I want to compare all the crankshafts, I want to compare all the connecting rods and all the pistons and see what the weights are, things of that nature. So that's probably going to be in either the next couple of days or next week, whenever I have some time. So on that note, have a good day.